With Sam Zell this morning. And Sam, let me transition from looking at oil to the broad economy. The whole expectation that we go into a recession this year. What do you think about that? How does real estate feel to you today?
Well, I think that the current environment either suggests that we're already in a recession or that we're rapidly moving toward moving into a recession. World trade has slowed down. The currency issues continue to be all over the place. I mean, China going one way and Japan and the euro going the other way. And the uncertainties of this election year contribute to this. So when I look at, the prospects, I keep looking all over the world and all over the United States for demand. And, the demand is pretty weak. And ultimately, recessions reflect, falling demand.
Yeah, and you've been so smart in the past in terms of cycles by selling at the top. Do you think markets here are reflecting that, and is it justified? Do you think these markets keep showing declines and volatility?
Well,
are you a seller?
I think the answer is any day you're not a buyer, you're a seller.
So you're a seller.
So over the last year, we've just looked at opportunities. I mean, and said, this is pretty frothy, and the kind of financing that's been available and the kind of equity that has been available has pushed up asset prices. Obviously, somewhat the result of QE2. So. From our perspective, we look at it and we say we have to, balance both prospects. And at the moment, we're probably more a seller than a buyer.
Anthony?
You mentioned QE and the Fed and the asset inflation. The Fed doesn't have a lot of tools here, Sam, if we go into a recession. So what do you think happens from a policy perspective if we, in fact, do get the data that says blink, blink, recession?
I don't know. Okay, I mean, if I knew, I'd be rich.
But you are. I thought you are.
But I think
all of our viewers saw that wink, by the
way. But I think the answer is yes. I think the Fed doesn't have a lot of tools, and I think that's going to make it more problematical if we end up in a more difficult situation. I'm not predicting a repeat of the big financial crisis. The banking system is so much better today. I think the overall system is in better shape.
Would you break up the banks here if you had that policy decision?
I think that's ridiculous. I think the idea that we're going to shrink our power in the world.
And Neil Kashkari just made the whole case for it.
I understand, and I saw him on the TV, and I guess the question is, are you talking about what's economically best or what's politically best?
Right, what office is he running for now?
And I can't see any thesis under which shrinking America's economic power is somehow or other going to better off the U.S. or the rest of the world.
I think that's a good point.
What policy would you recommend here? Let's say you could get something passed through Congress or something that the president could suggest. What would you do to help out the economy?
I think the single most important issue is the entire question of cost-benefit. We've talked about cost-benefit for years. People have talked about, well, the cost versus the benefit. The reality is Congress has basically created an arena where they pretend and, like they used to pretend and extend in real estate, and they're now pretending and extending in the oil patch. They pretend that they're solving problems, but they're not.
Right.
And so we've had part of the reason we have a 2% growth rate instead of a 4% growth rate is because we've had regulation going crazy.
Right.
And extreme regulation. And the fact that these regulation issues are ending up in front of the Supreme Court is not an accolade to a negotiated bipartisan world.
And all of the candidates right now have plans, well, certainly on the GOP side, have plans to roll back regulation and to certainly implement tax reform. Donald Trump obviously has been a face of real estate. Have you done deals with him?
I have never done a deal with him, but I've had significant interface with him.
What do you think about him as a candidate?
My only comment to everybody has been I would never underestimate Donald Trump. And although Donald is obviously presenting a very different picture, I think he's out there testing his own limits and everybody else's limits. But he's not a dumb man. He's been very successful. He's willing to put himself out there and take pretty extraordinary, extreme positions.
Do you think that he would follow through on those positions, though, if he was actually elected?
No.
You don't think
I don't.
Like the ban on Muslims?
Well, the ban on Muslims it's been converted to a ban on Muslims. What he said was, stop.
Take a
we
time
don't know
out.
what's going on.
Take a
time out. Find out what we're doing and how we're doing it. That's a lot different than the media's ban on Muslims.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Fair.
How about this 45% tariff on Chinese goods? And then he walked that back, too, though, by the way.
I think that's ridiculous, and that would start an international trade war, and I think the chances of anything like that are nothing more, are very remote, and I think these are political presentations, just like you can keep your doctor if you want to.
Yeah, all right, we'll talk more about that. Sam Zell with us this morning.